It's 19th of December, the day of St. Nicholas. Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation. My name is Vasil Samachvalov, and we start a first briefing with Roman Horbach, the head of personnel department of the headquarters of the land forces of the armed forces of Ukraine, or in simple words, the man who knows about mobilization and who and how will be engaged in our armed forces. Good morning, happy St. Nicholas Day. Thank you. Well, we've been already greeted by the Russians. Mr. Roman, one of the reasons we're talking with you today is the information that the last week that became interesting to everybody about the new wave of mobilization after the new year, or then there was the reconfirmation that we're not talking about mobilization so far. But can you tell us like some real comments about this? Well, about the waves of mobilization, starting from the 24th of February this year, mobilization is on. It was announced by the resolution of the President of Ukraine, and from the very beginning there were no waves of mobilization really. On the first phase, more people were mobilized, but then the pace slowed down, and now the pace is way lower than it was in the beginning. The figures that we draft the citizens based on, it depends on the situation in the front lines. All those figures, all those indicators in the number of the personnel, they are scheduled, they're planned, and they are being calculated by the General Staff of Ukraine, and the mobilization is completed by the territorial drafting centers. It's something that we cannot say that after the new year there's going to be yet another wave of mobilization, because all those factors that influence the pace of mobilization, they are calculated way before. And the fact that there was a mobilization in Russia, that they drafted up to 200,000 people. Now we work according to our plan, and we don't contemplate any new waves of mobilization. And can you please tell us what are the most demanded professions in the army, and such thing that we call the booking or the specialists that we need in the rear? For example, those who the businesses try to save for themselves, to keep for themselves. Well, the most demanded professions, I would rather phrase it in a little bit different way. I would say that the people whom we need the most and whom we draft mostly, those are the people who already have military experience or better combat experience in the joint forces operation or anti-terroristic operation. Also, we draft the people who do not have any military experience, but that is the category of the drafted people who are immediately sent to the training centers, and the minimal period for their training is 1 month, and then depending on the complexity of their profession, that period may be extended. Well, the professions that we need almost all of the professions to fill the ranks of our armed forces. In percentage, we obviously draft more military professions like shooters, tank operators, but we cannot say that we do not need anybody who knows something about cryptography or signal. So we actually need everybody, but in different percentages, someone more, someone less. Those who are subject to booking or who needs to be booked, that's resolved on a case-to-case basis. The head of the manager of a business or the president of a company, they may bring up an issue of booking for certain citizens who are more required in civil life through the ministries all the way to the Ministry of Economy, they bring up that issue, and then in coordination with the Ministry of Defense, on a case-by-case basis, the resolution is being taken. The Ministry of Economy issues a resolution which lists all the names and the territorial drafting centers. They put together those lists, but it's all being resolved on a case-to-case basis. Irina Kožehar, Ukrinform, do we understand it right that notwithstanding the fact that starting from the January 2023, even no matter the announcements, the statements of the Russia that their scale of mobilization will grow in Russia, we do not envisage any growth in the pace of mobilization in Ukraine? No, that's not quite correct. I said that we will not have any new waves. We do mobilization according to our schedule, starting from the last winter, and in the same way we will keep drafting people. The next year we will probably have some corrections to our plans, but it does not happen in ways or depending on a day-by-day circumstances. We have a certain plan, and upon the results of today, for example, we cannot say that we will draft more people tomorrow. All those factors are calculated, and the mobilization is going on a permanent basis. And additionally, maybe you have some breakdown by regions. Is there any specificity for the regions? No, there are no special attitude to some regions. It's only based on the availability of certain professions, certain specialists across the regions. In the territorial drafting centers, we have a database, we have the statistics of all the professions across the regions, and we have a mobilization resource plans around all the regions of Ukraine, and depending on this mobilization resource, the territorial centers may plan the draft of certain specialists based on their professions. So it's all only based on mobilization resource and availability of professions in the regions. Are there any specificities with regard to the occupied territories? No, there are no specificities, but the people who are internally displaced, they should be registered with the local drafting offices where they got in the regions where they moved to. So if the people are subject to mobilization and if it's required by the law, they should do so and be mobilized on a legal basis. Well, and another question is, people are being concerned about with the issue of training. You said it would last a month, or can you give us more detail about how and where the Ukrainian warriors are trained now? Well, if it's not a secret anyway. Well, as I mentioned, the people who do not have any military experience, they are being forwarded to the training centers on a mandatory basis. Minimal term of training is 1 month, depending on the profession. So we add maybe 2 weeks or a month, or maybe 2, or maybe a month and a half. So it's for individual training, but there is also collective training when the serviceman gets into his unit and the unit is about to be engaged in the battle operations. So the unit is being trained in the polygons or other in different types of terrain. So all that individual or joint training, it may take 3 months or even more. Even people with a military experience who have experience of military service or maybe even combat experience, before a unit is being engaged in the battle operations, they undergo training in the polygons. Also, sir, is there an issue with the people who try to avoid to deviate from military service? Maybe we can do any comparison? Is the situation now better or worse? Well, obviously there is a category who try to deviate not only the military service, but Also, for confirmation of the information, some people try to avoid getting registered with the drafting offices, but that figure is really insignificant. It's not so much of them in the, in the total background. So taking it on a case-by-case basis, yes, it's an issue, but on a general scale, there is no such problem because everything goes according to the plan. Well, within minor error, yeah, correct. Well, if we have no more question, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving your comments and details. I'm reminded you, joining us was Roman Horbach, the head of the personnel department of the headquarters of the Land Forces of Armed Forces of Ukraine. Our next briefing is at 1500, and we will be speaking with Halina Lukova, the military governor of Kherson City. See you shortly.